Welcome to Love in Life, a guide to a positive mindset. My aim is to show you that the key to a happier and more positive mind is to love the life you have. We will look at tips and tools you can use to improve your mindset, and the best thing is, we'll all be on this journey together. Hello, and welcome back to Love in Life. Welcome to this episode, this somewhat late episode. I've had a really lovely, wholesome few days with different things I had booked in, and I didn't have time. Well, I didn't schedule time to record my podcast. What a donut. So obviously I'm doing it now. I'm doing it on Wednesday morning, a little bit late. Sorry about that. But we've had a few issues within the family, which I won't go into. I've had some lovely things booked in. Saturday I went to a gong meditation with my lovely friend Michelle, which was amazing. I haven't actually shared anything about that on my Instagram, which is a shame. I mean, there was a lady like 2 people down from me who fell asleep and she was snoring. So it was every now and again I was disturbed. So I don't think I had the full experience, but either way it was amazing. I've actually booked myself and my sister onto a different one just so because I want her to experience it as well. So that was on Saturday. Sunday I spent some time with my lovely sister and the kids. I can't remember what I was doing on Monday, and we've also had my mum and dad's dog whilst they're on holiday. So and then yesterday I went just fucking waffling. Do you want to know? Yeah, why not? I'm there now. Yesterday, you may have seen my post on Instagram, I went for a lovely walk with my friend who lives in Worcester, and we went for a walk in the Malverns where she grew up. So it was really lovely learning about the area, and it's steeped in history. So it was a really lovely day. I love walking. I love being out in nature, and it was quite like we stood at the peak of this hill, and it's just amazing to watch everything. Like obviously there's lots of movement going on down there at the bottom, but when you're up that high you don't see the movement, so everything just looks still apart from all the nature around you. And whilst it was a lovely sunny day, there were clouds coming in and you could see that we were higher than the clouds. There were birds flying above our heads. The wind was blowing. It was just amazing. It was very special, and I had an amazing day. And here we are, Wednesday morning. So it's been, I say it's been hectic, but obviously I've been doing lots of lovely things, and in between all the other bits I usually do, and in between family things. So yeah. Right, I'm going to stop waffling on about what I've been doing and get on with today's episode. Now, yesterday was World Mental Health Day, and I'm usually a little bit, I just don't know how I feel about. I feel a bit iffy putting out posts sometimes on World and National Awareness Days, just because I don't want to be one of those that just jumps on the bandwagon and that is trying to use it to promote their business. But I thought, given the industry that I now work in, I would be pretty irresponsible not to say anything. Although I will say, it's not just on World Mental Health Day that we should be talking about mental health. This should be something that's talked about every day. But I guess the whole point in the World and National Days is to raise awareness. And it certainly does do that. So let's talk about mental health today. So I was recently having a conversation with my friend Gemma, who's the one I went on the walk with yesterday. She's also my hairdresser, and we were having a conversation recently where we were talking about, therapy, mental health, lots of different aspects of mental health. And I said, aren't we lucky that nowadays, not only is it more talked about, but we are in an era where help is so available to us. So obviously the fact that it's talked about an awful lot more, but also we have so much available in terms of therapy, in terms of healing modalities, in terms of how many organisations there are out there for you to just pick up the phone when you need to talk to somebody. And I do truly believe that one of the things we have to thank for it being so much more talked about now is social media. And because of days like World Mental Health Day, it is so much more talked about. However, social media is amazing because it is more talked about, I have to say social media is probably partly to blame for the many aspects of poor mental health that we suffer these days. We are constantly on social media whenever we've got 5 minutes. It's become a habit with many, many people, myself included, to open up Facebook, open up Instagram, and the first thing we see is somebody else living their best life, and we start comparing ourselves to others. We start comparing ourselves to similar people who, for their own mental health, which is fair enough, I get that, post the best things. But that means that we compare ourselves to others. And it's not necessarily a fair comparison. And again, cyberbullying, because of social media, cyberbullying has become a new form of bullying, which obviously has a massive, massive impact on people's mental health. And the fact that there's no filter, there's no real regulations, if we're honest, about what people are allowed to say about you. And that obviously has a massive impact on people's mental health. If you are not the type of person that automatically has, when you have a spare 5 minutes, if you're not the type of person that picks up your phone and goes straight to social media, then maybe you're the kind of person that picks up their phone and goes straight to the news pages, which are full of doom and gloom. Let's be honest. That's what sells. The media sells doom and gloom. And whilst there is a lot of doom and gloom in the world, there's also a lot of amazing stuff in the world. But because the good stuff doesn't sell, they don't focus on that. They focus on scaremongering. They focus on the bad shit that's going on. And obviously that is going to have an impact on your mental health, on the way you feel. It's going to have an impact on your vibration. And unfortunately, I say unfortunately, this is one of the negative sides of the sort of technological era that we live in. But because of this, obviously, those things aren't going to be going away. Now, there are some amazing things to the technological, is that the right word? I don't even know, but okay, we're going with it. The era that we live in. There are some amazing things about this era that we live in. So I don't want to focus on, all the bad shit. But what we do want is just to be aware of it. Like I said, if it wasn't for the era that we live in, then access to help, access to healing modalities, access to organisations would not be as accessible as they are. They simply wouldn't be. You think back to the days when for everything you had to look it up in the yellow pages. Just that little bit of extra effort means that you're less likely to actually follow through with it. But the one thing I want to focus on today is that feeling, at the sort of onset of ill mental health. Because this is where I feel that I can speak from experience and speak from my heart when, from things that I have experienced myself, from things that I have witnessed friends and family members go through. And quite often this early onset of ill mental health can look like anxiety. It can feel like you're quiet and that you can't be your true self. It can feel like you're a bit lost or feel like you're a bit stuck. It can sometimes feel like you're just putting up with something in life and you're not sure if it's the right thing for you or not. You're not sure if you're happy with it, but you're not sure how you would feel without it. And that's quite often, in my experience, a clue as to what is really going on deep down inside, those things that you are not really saying because you feel like you don't want to put on people. You feel like you're being silly. You feel like, well, why should I feel like this? There's so many more things, worse things going on in the world. Why should anyone care if I feel like this? And the fact is, people do care. Like if you knew that a friend was feeling lost, feeling down, feeling that they're not quite themselves, would you think, well, how pathetic, how ridiculous? Look at what's going on in Israel and Palestine. No, you would think, I'm here for that person. I want to be an ear for that person so as they can talk to me. So why is it any different when it's the other way around? So just remind yourself how you feel when you know that one of your friends or family is in need and is feeling like that. So talk to family, talk to friends, because often getting things off of our chest and just knowing that we are being heard is such a great way of processing how we feel. Now, I know that not everybody is lucky enough to have friends and family who they can talk to. I know there are certain situations where this isn't possible. And if this is how you feel, then talk to a GP, talk to an organisation, talk to a coach. If you find somebody, take time to find somebody who you truly feel aligned with, somebody that you feel that trust with, somebody that holds a safe space for you, and open up to them. It's really hard to open up to somebody who you don't feel that trust with. So it's really important that you know what you need from a coach, know what you need from your GP. Because like I said, sometimes it's just a case of being heard. Do you want advice or do you just want to be heard? Because that will establish how you need somebody to respond to you as well. If you often find yourself feeling that onset, that feeling of anxiety, that feeling of you're not quite right in yourself, notice what your triggers are. Is it social media making you feel like this? Is it certain friends or family members making you feel this way? Is it a certain situation in your life, a relationship, or your job that is making you feel constantly stressed? And what can you do to lessen that feeling? What changes can you make if you recognize those triggers? What changes can you make? Recognizing these triggers will not only just make sense of why you're feeling the way you're feeling, but also it can offer you a form of protection as well. If you're aware that by spending more than 10 minutes on social media, you find yourself comparing yourself to others, then set yourself a time limit. If you find that your mum constantly picks at you, questions, what are you wearing? Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? Then when you see your mum or when you speak to your mum, like knowing that those things are likely to be said, if that makes sense, can help lessen the blow. But also, if you know that that personally constantly triggers you, then set some boundaries with them if you're able to. Whether they are spoken boundaries, like that you set with that person, or if you just set your own boundaries in your head, like only spend a certain amount of time with that person. And if it's certain situations in your life that are constantly triggering you, then this may sound brutal, but you are the person who's responsible for changing those situations. Like, those situations are not going to change and become the way you want them to without any action from you. Something else that can help us maintain a good level of mental health is, do you remember that episode recently I did when I talked about feminine energy, and another one after that when I talked about working with the seasons? So knowing your feminine energy and how that serves you, how we as women need to be in an alignment, in the correct alignment for you, in alignment with our feminine energy. So know your cycle. Like, I know it sounds really obvious, but until something makes you do it, like, who tracks their cycle? I know I didn't do it until I started really getting pissed off with the fact that my periods were 1 month they were like 30 days, and then another month I felt like they were all over the place. And it was only when I started tracking them that I could actually pinpoint a cycle within a cycle. Does that make sense? And then knowing your cycle means that you can work with your hormones. I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but obviously there are different cycles within our monthly cycle or 28-day cycle. As a standard 28-day. Obviously, we're not all 28 days. But we have cycles within that one cycle. So know your body, know what your needs are in those different times. And those changes, those cycles within your cycle are very much linked to the seasons of the year, where the first part of your cycle is very much recuperating and gaining energy, ready for the next step, ready for the next season, which is when you will feel on top of the world and where you get your mojo back and you find everything in life amazing. And then once that season's ended, once that cycle is ended, you're then in a place of slowing down and in need of self-care before you're then in the next cycle, which is shedding what you no longer need. It's a time when your body is using the most energy, but you feel the least amount of energy. And the thing is, if we don't work in alignment with these cycles within our female bodies, then of course we're going to put so much pressure on ourselves to keep up with what everybody else is doing. And in particular, keep up with what men are doing. And that's just not possible. I'm sorry, but it's not possible. They do not have these monthly cycles that create them, that cause them to have a surge of energy and then a severe lack of energy. And if we do not honour this, then of course we're going to feel out of alignment, which of course is going to have an effect on our mental health because we don't feel like we're good enough. But you are good enough. So it is really important to know your cycle, whatever that might be, however long it is, whatever period of life you're in. It's really important to know how your body works and what your body needs at the different times. And it's really important to flow. Just let that flow. Don't try and control it. And to maybe just recognise when you might be putting too much pressure on yourself, when really what you should be doing is taking more time for self-care and allowing yourself to slow down. And having conversations with people about it. Like, we still don't talk enough about, in my opinion, we still don't talk enough about what our bodies need at different times. There are still conversations that I'm having with Craig, for example, of explaining to him what my body needs, what my needs are at different times of my cycle. And the thing is, if we don't talk about these things, how do we know that other people feel the same? How do we know how other people feel? And how are other people expected to know how we feel? Because I'll be honest with you, about where I am in my cycle at the moment. I've just got to the point where last night I recognised it. I got to the point where I'm feeling agitated by everything, where people are just pissing me off for no reason. I know that I'm getting to the stage where I need to start slowing down. My energy is starting to dwindle. And you can probably hear it in the difference in this podcast. If you compare it to the energy I have, say 2 weeks ago, when I would have been in the height of my energy, in the height of the key hormones being released. But this is the time when I know I need to slow down, when I know I need to go a bit easier on myself, when I know I'm going to be a little bit more emotional than I would be at other times of the month. Which is really unfortunate because Alfie's going away on Friday and I'm not going to see him for a whole week. So good luck, everyone. So of course, our cycles have an effect on our mental health. Of course they do. But I think by just being more aware of what goes on in your body, what goes on in your mind at those times, just makes it that little bit easier for you to understand and for you to explain to others. And actually, that makes me think of something that I've been really noticing recently is the amount of perimenopausal women. And obviously, I'm in lots and lots of different groups where people share what they're going through when it comes to perimenopause. And so many women are extremely anxious at this time. And the thing is, perimenopause doesn't just go on for a couple of years. Like they say that it goes on for a couple of years, but it doesn't. I've been suffering from symptoms since I was like 37 and I'm now 41. So, and I know really, like I'm fluctuating so much. I know that whilst I'm in that stage of perimenopause, I know I'm nowhere near it being completed. So what was my point going to be? About anxiety. Like imagine going through, say 10 years of your life feeling that amount of anxiety. There's absolutely, I just find it so sad because there's absolutely no reason. Well, there is reason, obviously, because of our hormones, but it shouldn't be like that. And I'm really lucky with belief coding that I know, I've seen that every every discomfort, so whether that's anxiety or other forms of mental health, whether that's depression, PTSD, everything has a root cause. So by working to find out what that root cause is and working to heal that root cause, we're in more of a position to just make those mental health issues a little bit easier to deal with. Like, I know I'm lucky to know that, but not everybody realizes that. Not everybody wants to hear that. In fact, that reminds me that I wanted to raise people's awareness of a case study that I'm doing at the moment. And I'm just saying that out loud now because to remind myself to mention it at the end of the episode. But I think the overall message to do with any form of mental health is to talk to somebody. Whether that's talking to a therapist, talking to a doctor, talking to a coach, talking to friends and family. This is the one most important thing we can do for ourselves. Because if you, like me, I prefer not to go down the medication route. I had a bad experience when I had depression about 20 years ago. Yeah, probably about 20 years ago. And I was on, I can't even remember what they were now, what type they were, but I was on antidepressants and I had a really bad reaction to them. It honestly made me fucking mental. Like, some of the ways I reacted to Craig, I'm surprised. This was at the very beginning of our relationship. Sometimes I think back and I'm actually surprised we're still together. They made me go fucking mental. And I know not everybody feels like that, but that's my bad experience with them. I vowed I would never automatically go down that route again. I would much rather find a natural way of healing. And I'm not shaming anybody who does go straight to the medication route, because we're all different. We've all got different ways of doing things, and there's no right or wrong way. You've just got to find the right way for you. But I think we can all agree that talking to somebody is 100% the best thing we can do for ourselves. And being that somebody that another person can talk to is the single best thing we can do for the benefit of others. So talk to other people and be that person that other people can talk to if you've got the capacity to do so. And I really just want to take this time to say to anybody who ever wants to reach out just to talk, I'm always here. Sometimes I find myself when I'm having a conversation with somebody who's going through a bad time. In the past, I've thought, oh my God, I'm not giving much back. But actually, when you think about it, what I'm doing is being a good listener. I hold a space for somebody to come and talk to me without judgment, without necessarily offering you any advice. Like, sometimes we just need to talk. Sometimes we just need to get off our chest. And the last thing you want to hear is, oh, you should do this, you should try this. Sometimes we just need to talk and know that we're being heard. Anyway, on that note, I'm just going to go back to what I mentioned earlier about my case study, that I'm reaching out for women who are experiencing perimenopausal symptoms and you want to try a more holistic approach. I would love to offer, I would like at least 5 people who would be happy to try belief coding as a form of dealing with perimenopausal symptoms that can lessen the symptoms. As you know, as I've been very, very honest about on my podcast and in my social media, I've used belief coding to drastically reduce some of my symptoms, which have been wetting myself, which have been brain fog. And the thing is, the hormonal changes in our body, these things they're bound to cause symptoms. They're bound to have a reaction with our body. What I would like to show people is that belief coding can help lessen those symptoms. So if you're interested in giving it a go, then I'm looking for at least 5 people to test it out, and I'm offering my sessions at half price. So please do get in contact for this case study if you're interested, and if you're seriously looking to approach it in a more holistic way. Personally, like I said, I prefer to approach things in a more natural and holistic way. So I don't intend on using HRT if I can get away with it. Again, everybody's different. Personally, I'd rather deal with it naturally. And there are things that I've introduced into my diet. God, who knew this was going to turn into a menopause podcast? But yeah, that's how I prefer to approach things. And if that sounds like something that you would like to try, then please do get in contact and we'll just arrange a call and I can tell you a little bit more about it and what to expect and see if you fancy giving it a go. Because honestly, especially when it comes to anxiety, the longer you leave it, the longer you accept that that's just the way it is, that's just how you need to feel, the worse it's going to get. And going back to what I said about being in different groups and being staggered by the amount of comments I see about suffering with anxiety and suffering from suicidal thoughts, like that really scares me, that it's got to the point where people are feeling suicidal, because it doesn't need to be like that. So please, 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 my main message is, if you ever want to reach out just to talk, just for somebody to listen to you, I'm always here. If you want to reach out because you're interested in taking part in my trial, then I would love to hear from you. But let's finish off today talking more to whoever you feel comfortable talking with, whatever stage your mental health is at. I'm going to put some links below of organisations if you feel that you need to talk to somebody and you don't know who to reach out to. I'm going to put some links in the show notes of organisations that you can reach out to. And I will put the link to my website if you want to know any more about belief coding and how that can help with your mental health. And yeah, if you've enjoyed this episode, or if this episode has spoken to you, then please do head over to wherever you listen to your podcast. Like, do it right now. Just stop and leave me a review. Leave me 5 stars, whatever you're able to do with your platform that you listen to your podcasts on. You know, just by giving me that feedback really helps me know what people need, but it also helps other people see what it's all about. Have an amazing week. Reach out if you need to, but I'll speak to you next week. Bye.